welcome to Emma's ESL English. Today, we're going to start a week of Harry Potter. There is a reason, I have a great excuse. It's Harry Potter's birthday on the 31st of July. I know, he's not a real person. Forgive me. What can I do? So, what we're going to do is today, I'm going to go through some vocabulary, and then Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to go through some phrases, and Friday, I'm going to do another reading for you. All of these things come from the very first chapter of the Philosopher's Stone, the very first Harry Potter book. Most people have seen the Harry Potter movies, and a lot of people have read the books. But I wonder how many people have read the very, very beginning of Harry Potter more than once. It's actually one of my favourite parts of all of the books. It really sets the scene that we don't see as much of in the movies, of the life of the Dursleys before Harry Potter. In fact, Harry Potter doesn't enter into the reading that I'm going to do for you at all. We're following the uncle Dursley to find out about his day as he goes through the day. Of course, this is the day when he who should not be named dies. And so the whole of the wizarding world is really excited because he's gone. The bad guy is gone. Dursley doesn't know very much about the wizarding world apart from that he hates it. So it's all kind of weird to him, and we just see what it's like for somebody who is trying to have a normal day, but things don't quite seem to be as normal as they should be. So there's a lot of really interesting vocabulary just in the first 3 pages that I'm reading for you. It's not very long. Okay, so the main reason I want to go through these phrases and vocabulary is so that you can understand the reading and enjoy it, hopefully. However, I do think that a lot of the phrases and some of the vocabulary will still be relevant and useful to you. At least I hope so. It's a lot of things that native speakers say. I hope it's useful. First one. Vernon Dursley is described as beefy. So we use this to describe someone who is really big. Usually if someone's really beefy, we think of them as having maybe some muscles. So you might say a bouncer. If you have a guy, you know, when you go to the club and there's those big guys that stand outside the club to make sure nothing bad happens inside or outside. Those guys, we can call them beefy. I think Vernon Dursley is a little bit too much on the wobbly side to really be beefy. But nonetheless, that's what JK Rowling has described him as. Second word we're using to describe his wife. And his wife is craning her neck. So, a crane, some of you I'm sure have got cranes in your country. They're a bird with a very, very long neck, usually a fishing bird. And so that idea of stretching your neck and leaning it out so that you can see something. So I think we use this quite a lot in English. She was craning her neck to see what would happen, meaning that we're really reaching very high with our neck to try and see something. Shuddered. That's that feeling when your whole body goes shakes, but we can use this in a few different ways. We can use it to describe when we're feeling cold, although we might also use shivering when we're cold. We might use it to describe when we're feeling scared about something or really shocked about something. We might shudder. You know, sometimes it feels like, ew, you get that kind of shake, but you don't really know why. And we say somebody walked over our grave. Of course, we don't have a grave. So it's kind of a weird expression that we have to explain why sometimes we get a weird chill and we feel the need to shake and shudder. Next one, flutter. Most often we use flutter to talk about birds and not flapping their wings, but more like, I suppose, more like butterflies flutter. So birds flap their wings, it's a much bigger action, but butterflies are more delicate, that more delicate kind of flutter. We can also use flutter to describe our heart sometimes. If he makes my heart flutter, then it means that really kind of happy feeling or romantic feeling when you really like somebody and they make your heart go pitter patter. That's another idiom for you. When they make your heart go pitter patter, it means that kind of way your heart goes when you have a crush on someone. Pecked. Mr. Dursley pecked his wife on the cheek. If we peck someone on the cheek, it's a kiss on the cheek. So it was just a peck on the cheek is actually an idiom that we use quite often to mean she just kissed me on the cheek. So usually a peck is what a bird does with their beak. He pecked at the ground with his beak. But for some reason we use the same one, even though that sounds really painful. We use the same one to talk about a peck on the cheek, meaning a kiss on the cheek. Tyke. Tyke, Tyke, is usually used together with little. He's a little tyke. We're describing a small child, maybe 2 years old, but they could be as big as 10 years old, and often someone who's maybe a little bit troublesome. But we can also just use it as a nice way to talk about our children. Come here, you little tyke. A nice way to refer to your children. It could also be a terrible way to refer to your children. Come here, you horrible little tyke, can also be used to refer to your children if you're very angry with them. So, yeah, it's a kind of a weird word. Huddle. We can huddle together and we can stand in a huddle. And if we're huddling together, we're all gathering together. And we use it a lot to talk about penguins. You know the way that emperor penguins stand all closely together? We can say they huddle together for warmth. If we have a group of people huddled together, then it sort of gives us the idea that they might be having a cozy little chat together. Okay, dashed. We use dash when we're going very fast somewhere. So he dashed quickly out of the door, meaning he left very quickly. Seized means to grab or hold something. So in the book, he seized his telephone, which means he grabbed it very quickly. Rejoice. We usually hear rejoice when we're doing anything religious or churchy. Rejoice just means we're very happy and we're sort of telling everybody how happy we are, usually how grateful we are for something as well. Muggle. Muggle is probably one of the most important pieces of vocabulary you need to know if you plan on watching or reading Harry Potter. If you have no interest in Harry Potter, it's the least important word you ever need to know. Muggle is what the wizarding world, Harry Potter's world, refers to normal people, probably like you or me. Unless you're magical, you're a muggle. So I'm a muggle, probably you're a muggle too. If you're not whizzing around on a broomstick or using a wand on a regular basis and things actually happen, probably you're a muggle. It is a JK Rowling invented word that is in fairly common use now because Harry Potter books are so famous, and the movies of course. So a lot of people know what a muggle is, and they might refer to you as a muggle to mean a very normal person. But in general, it's not a particularly important word if you're not going to be reading Harry Potter. And the last word for today is rattled. If somebody feels rattled, then they feel very uncomfortable. They feel sort of shaken, as if their safety has been damaged in some way. They feel rattled. Before I end, I should have started with a brief note on JK Rowling herself. I love Harry Potter. I love the movies and I love the books and I love the way that JK Rowling writes, and I'm a big fan of her other books as well. However, I'm not a big fan of her recent turn to a lack of support for the trans community. I understand that everybody has their own opinions and is entitled to their own opinions, but we put JK Rowling on a very high pedestal because in the past she was very supportive and welcoming to all communities. And that's something that a lot of people really needed and appreciated. To have that person now turn and say, I support everybody but this community. And the community she doesn't support is one of the most victimized communities in the world. It's very hard and frustrating for a lot of Harry Potter fans to see this person that we so revered now turn on a really small community. So I have battled with that for quite a few years, and the place I've come to, which may not be the place that I stay forever, but the place I've come to is JK Rowling's writing is excellent. There's no way around that. And her Harry Potter books have given a lot of joy and a lot of escapism to a huge number of people who really, really needed it. And that continues today. So, just as in the past we have separated writers from their work, I think this is another case where personally I have to separate her from her work and say that I do not support her as a person, but I do still enjoy her work. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast today. Of course, you are welcome to your very own opinion, and so are we all. I just wanted to say for the record that my opinion is, personally, I support the trans community, and it's very upsetting that somebody who was so welcoming to so many communities has now turned upon them in such a vocal and public way. So, yeah, not cool, JK. Not cool at all. Anyway, moving on. Happy birthday, Harry Potter. We'll be back tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can email them to emmaseslenglish@gmail.com, or alternatively, you can head over to the blog where I will put all of these words down. And I'll also put a link to the book if you feel brave enough and you want to try reading it. I would suggest you start by watching the movies, though. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.